Welcome to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel Walston. And in this space, we navigate life together. We ask the hard questions like, what is the truth you haven't told? But most importantly, we grow together. And sometimes that leads to a change of heart. Hey everyone, I'm Angel Walston, and every Thursday we come together and discuss topics to help us to be whole, healed, and walk in the authenticity of who God created us to be. And this week I have a special guest with me, my cousin Keonya. Say, hey girl, hey.
Hey.
And we're going to be talking about what I wish adults would have told me. But before we get into that, we're going to jump into our question of the day. So today's question is, you're at a stoplight and the car next to you, they look over and they see you getting your entire life. You're dancing, you're singing, background and lead. What song is playing?
So right now, currently, it is Leave the Door Open by Silk Sonic, a.k.a. Bruno Mars. Well, and Anderson .Paak, but I love Bruno Mars. He is my favorite. So yeah, that song is on blast and repeat.
The first time I heard that song, I was like, is this from like the 80s? Like, I didn't even know that it was
exactly.
Back. And then I was like, I'm not mad at it. I am not mad at it at all. I was thinking about this, and I feel like I never have one answer for any of the questions of the day, but that's my business. So it's either going to be Her, Damage. And listen, I played that song like all of 2020. That's definitely my favorite song of 2020.
That's a good song.
Somebody would look at me at the stoplight and swear out that my man that I don't have is taking me for granted. Damage, okay? I love that song. Either learn me or I'm a lesson. That's the whole read right there, okay? So it could either be that, or it could be Chandler Moore's Lean on You. Like, I can go either way. You just never know.
So, ooh, hold on now. I don't know if I know that one.
Off his new album, Feelings. It's a vibe.
Okay, I'm going to have to look that up.
Yes, so you all know the drill by now. Don't forget to answer the question in the comment section on my YouTube channel if you're watching there, or you can answer in my stories on Instagram at Angel C. Walston. So I wanted to do a fun little get to know you game, Keonya, so that my listeners can get to know a little bit more information about you before we jump into our topic for today. So these are going to be 10 rapid get to know you questions. So how old are you?
I'm 23.
Jordan year. What college did you go to?
I went to Hampton University. I actually have on my class shirt right now on 11.
And she graduated last year, right? Last May?
Yep, May 2020.
And what was your major?
Psychology.
What would your dream job be?
My dream job? Honestly, my dream job, I'm going to think of just dream job, not what I'm trying to work on right now. My dream job would be a travel blogger or a travel/food blogger. One day, I'm going to get there.
The best place you've ever traveled?
London. I went to London in 2019 with Hampton, and it was my dream destination before I even went. And then when I went, I was like, oh yeah.
I love that. What is your favorite thing about you?
Why is that so hard? My favorite thing about myself is,
I feel like people never like to brag on themselves. But brag on yourself.
I know, right? To be honest, my favorite thing about myself is who I am behind closed doors. Let's say that. Because sometimes I can be very, very shy in front of other people and at first, and then I warm up. But when I'm in a room by myself, I'm like the goofiest in here talking to myself, acting out Grey's Anatomy scenes like yesterday. It's crazy.
I love that. What is the last thing that you laughed at?
Probably TikTok. I stay on TikTok all day. Probably something on TikTok.
I'm ashamed to say it, but it was Joe Biden falling up the steps.
I just watched this. Watched that before this.
I kept seeing people post it, and forgive me.
And then he got to the top. It was.
I'm so sorry.
That was funny.
What is your favorite movie? And if you don't have a favorite, top three.
My favorite movie, I like animated movies. My favorite movie is B movie. I actually have Barry B right there. Behind me. My second favorite movie is Coraline. Please don't judge me, y'all. I really like animated kids movies. And yeah, I'll just stick with those two, honestly. I like all movies, but those are my two favorite movies.
We'll have to put Carly onto that.
Yes.
Who was your first celebrity crush?
I think officially Bow Wow. My mom took me to a Bow Wow concert when I was like 4.
And the last question, what is something that people would be surprised to know about you?
Oh, I think people are very surprised to learn that I have a little bit of social anxiety. I am terrified of talking to people, but I do it well, and they're always like, "Oh, you're a great speaker," but on the inside, I feel like my heart is gonna explode.
Oh, Keonya, you were one and the same. All right. So now y'all gotten to know a little bit about Keonya. So as I mentioned, we are going to be discussing what I wish adults would have told me. And I chose you, Keonya, because to be my guest for this topic for a couple of reasons. One is I feel like I can still consider you like a recent college grad. It was last year. That's still recent. And so now I feel like, well, even prior to being a college grad, but you're in your own space of adulthood and womanhood. And I feel like your age range is the point where like people are trying to figure a lot out at that point. And then there's Carly, who is my niece, Keonya's cousin. And she's going to grow up in a completely different generation than what we did. And I high key feel some type of way about that because I feel like Shantae should have had her when we were in our prime.
Yes.
When Carly's like 20, I would be like 50.
And I'm gonna be like 40.
So it's like we still gonna be cool, but not really. Like
not really. She's not gonna want to hang with me.
No. But I've just been thinking about what conversations do I wish were had with me when I was younger, or what things do I feel like could have better prepared me as an adult? And what are some things that I could have possibly learned in an easier way than having to learn it the way that I did, if those conversations were had, and just keeping that in mind of the conversations to have with Carly, essentially. And so here we are. But also, let me give this disclaimer. As we're talking about what I wish adults would have told me, this is not specifically to our parents. This is in a general sense as well, because I feel like a lot of times with adults, we just tend to teach what we learned, and it's a lot that we don't know. And so we are kind of
right
as we go as well. So how we're going to do this is I'm going to give you a topic that will start off with what I wish adults would have told me about, and fill in the blank with the topic. And then we're going to deep dive in from there. Okay.
Okay.
So, as a recent college grad, what do you wish adults would have told you about life after college?
So, whew. So I've tried to think of something that didn't involve the pandemic because nobody knew that was coming. Yeah. So I think I wish adults would have been a little more specific about how life after college was, because I feel like in middle school and high school, they say, oh, you go through these years, you go to college, you get a job, you get an apartment, you get a house. Like they never talk about the in between. Actually, it's probably going to be a few months before you do all of those things. And I think like that last year of college, we're just so excited to graduate and like become adults and get a job. And then you're like, wait, it's like a billion of us. And we're all trying to go for the same thing, really? So I don't know. I just wish it was a little more realistic on how it was gonna be. And it's not smooth as smooth as they just, I know they don't try to make you feel discouraged or anything or try to scare you with how real it can be. But sometimes I like to be told how scary it's going to be before you get there.
That's honest. And I think too, something I was
So,
thinking about. Consider the fact that pretty much from the time you how old are you when you go to kindergarten? Five, 6, 4?
yeah, I think
Whatever age
5.
you are
Yeah.
when you start kindergarten. If you
Yeah.
go to college from 5 years old or whatever age you start kindergarten until you're 21, 22, if you go to grad school, 23, 24, 25,
Yes.
you are in a school environment. Like that's all you know. And
All day.
literally all day, Monday through Friday, and then that is just like taken away. And it's like, all right, go do life now. Go be in the real
Yes.
world. It's like, wait, what? Like I done had 20 plus years of
I
this
don't know
environment that's just
where to go.
exactly. And
It's
I feel like
crazy.
I've been out of college for a minute, but I feel like when you think about being in college, graduating, it's like I'm gonna be in the real world, I'm gonna make money, I'm gonna have my dream job. They do not talk about the fact that one, it can be hard to find a job straight out of college. Even if you do, a lot
Right.
of places do not want to pay you anything. The places that are
No.
they want you to have 50 years of experience, and it's like, but how? How I'm supposed to do
And
that?
then the craziest thing is they will say high school equivalent, and then they'll say 8 years doing this. What? You thought I was doing that in high school? I was not.
Like,
I was not doing that in high school. You can at least say masters and then say that. I could see how I could do all those things, but no, it is very weird.
and I will say that even just thinking about the job sense of it, I wish that adults, not even just parents, adults in a general sense, would talk more about how it's okay if you graduate from college and don't end up with a job in your field. When I graduated
Yeah.
from James Madison, I was working as a hostess at Red Lobster, full bachelor's degree. That was my job, okay? And I did that for a couple of months until I got a job in my field. But for a lot of people, it's not a smooth transition from you graduate, you already have a job lined up. Like, here's another great example of it. The fact that with high school, it's a smoother transition if you decide to go to college. College isn't for everybody, that's your business. But you
Right.
before you graduate from high school, you have your college and everything set up. So it's like you know what the next steps are going to be. And for some people, when
Right.
it comes to college to transitioning into the working world, that it's not a smooth transition. It's not set up, and people can feel like they failed, or it's like, did I get the wrong degree? Like, what am I doing? When it's not a smooth transition from college into getting a job in your field. Sometimes it takes longer, but that's okay as well.
Right. And going back to what you said about like being a hostess, I think that was something that I struggled with after graduation. I started applying to corporate jobs, corporate jobs, corporate jobs. That was it, office jobs. Even if it was like data entry or something like an internship, I wanted those jobs because I didn't want to apply to CVS or something like that because
Humbling.
just the pride. I was like, I have a bachelor's. What am I doing? But yeah, especially now when it's so hard to get a job, it's like that's okay. Get that money however you can. And
Care how the money comes in as long as they get paid.
exactly. Exactly. So that's something I do wish I did different. Applied to everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, life after college will humble you real fast, okay? It will humble you real fast.
Oh my goodness.
Like it really is a learning experience because once again, you go from this structured school environment for 20 plus years to
Yeah.
an environment that is unfamiliar to you. You're learning as you go, and that is perfectly
Yep.
okay. All right. What do you wish adults would have told you about friendships?
This one was kind of hard only because me and my mom specifically, even though we're talking about all adults, we talk about friendship a lot. And I think both of us really have different groups of friends. So sometimes we get to be different people. So I've always had healthy relationships with my friends, but I will say friendships change over time. And I was not expecting that part, especially moving from high school where you know everybody in your county to moving to college and you're meeting people from everywhere. And it's kind of weird. It's kind of awkward. And then graduate and y'all don't talk and there's nothing really to talk about because you're trying to figure out your life. So I guess I'll just say the development of friendships.
That is really good. And a good point too of just like how the dynamic of friendships change.
Yeah.
Because as you think about it like this, when you were, I don't know, a freshman in high school, a lot can change between that time period and you being a senior in college. And there are friendships that develop as a result of who you were at in a particular time and space of your life that you grow out of, you evolve into someone else. And it's not, I feel like people are always like, oh, you changed. That is not always a bad thing.
Right. Yeah.
Like evolution.
It's not. If I was still the friend I was in ninth grade, I might not have any friends.
That's really
kind of mean in ninth grade a little bit. And I think me as a friend, I can say I've changed in the way that my perception of things has changed. I understand that everybody is viewing this world completely different from me. And that is what's helped me the most. Everybody wasn't raised the same. And even though like most of my friends, we were raised, you know, close. Our parents are like-minded, but there's still things that we disagree on that as we get older, like for example, I've been in a group chat with one group of friends since 10th grade and it's changed. Some people have left, but for the most part, the main group of us have stayed and we're still having conversations like, you think like that? But I mean, that's okay. But just as you get older, it changes and you have to change with it if you want to. Sometimes you have to change with it if you want to keep those friends, and sometimes you don't, and you find new friends, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I think too that it's important to be able to know like what things you're willing to work around and what things you're willing to like what things are a deal breaker for you. Last summer when everything was going on with like George Floyd and all of that, I saw a post that said something along the lines of we can still be friends and like disagree on pineapples being on pizza. We're not going to disagree on racism. Like that's not something that like have this like, oh, you can be racist.
Yeah.
Like no. That ain't it.
No.
But I do think that it is important to learn through friendships, and something that I've learned as I've grown is being able to accept and acknowledge that your friendships typically do end up being built on similar foundations. So y'all tend to have similar interests, likes, all of that. But y'all are still two different people. You're going to have different beliefs in certain things. You're going to think differently in certain ways. And being able to be able to decide like, okay, this I can, if that's what you believe, don't really bother me. Really couldn't.
Yeah.
Versus something that's like really important to you that you want to stand your ground on.
Yeah, that's true.
I did want to ask, so since you said that you feel like you and your mom have had really good conversations in regards to friendship, what has been things that she has told you or conversations that you all have had that has been helpful?
So me and my mom, okay, so I'm trying to think of one thing. So me and my mom agree that we're the planning friend, like in the group. If we want to do something, we're planning it. You know what I'm saying? All of our friends know this too, so I don't really mind saying this. I hope my mom doesn't mind, but we're the planners. Everybody, you know, they're like, oh, what we doing this week? I'm gonna plan the trip or whatever. So sometimes it feels like if we don't plan it, then nothing might happen. Nothing's gonna go through. You know what I'm trying to say? So it got to a point where I was like, I don't want to plan it anymore. Like, if somebody else do it. So to hear that my mom is that same person in her friend group, she's really helped me to be like, okay, how about you throw out the idea and throw out a couple ideas and be like, all right, get somebody help. You know what I'm saying? Put it on, try to get everybody in it and make sure to always include everybody because you don't want to feel like the bossy one, like of the group either. So that's been something that me and my mom share in our friendships that I like. And I did not think, I don't know why I didn't think that about my mom, but I definitely didn't at first.
And I'll say a tidbit about you and your mom, because both of them are my cousins, is that I think it also helps when you have an example of someone who has had longevity with good friendships. And so,
Yeah.
like, I know with your mom, she's had friendships from like high school, like for years. And so to be able to
Yeah.
have someone who has shown themselves to be a good friend and has been able to have solid friendships that have lasted through different things, so through marriages, kids, and be able to see that to continue, I feel like that plays a huge role as well versus someone who, as my mom would say, change friends as frequently as you change your underwear. And so to have that modeled, I think that's a good example and a good way to be able to learn the different dynamic of friendships as well.
Yeah. And my mom has definitely helped me and my best friend, Taylor, because like in high school, she knows too. We had, I say like two big arguments or disagreements, let's say, and we thought it was over. Like to each other, we were like, I'm never talking to you again. But then to our moms, we were like, oh my gosh, that's my best friend. What am I gonna do? And I remember my mom made Taylor come to the house and I went in her room and she like set us down and we're in high school. We think we grown. We're like, ain't nobody gonna tell me to sit down and talk to her, but it really helped. And now I think when we have disagreements now, we both go back to that point in our head, like, hold up, mom said, take a breather, talk it out, because at this point, you're family. We've been friends for 10 years, so she not going nowhere.
All right. What do you wish adults would have told you about money?
um, Never spend it. Put it all in your savings and don't buy anything. No, yeah, I wish I would have been taught how to save better or how to think more of the future when it comes to money because I think well, of course, as a kid, when you get money, like you want to spend it, it's burning a hole in your pocket. But I'll say in college, those refund checks and all the money that you can come into while you're in college, okay?
Free money.
Ooh, those, yeah, those I should have been way better with that. But I was always saving for something, like saving for a trip or saving for an apartment. I got my first apartment in college, and that was good at the time, but I also could have been saving just because. You don't always have to save for something specific.
Yeah.
So, I definitely wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah. I would say when I think back to being in college, my first credit card that I got was a Target card. And I
Mm.
can't even, I think I bought like an iPod mini or something. I can't remember what it
Ooh,
was.
yeah.
Not something that I needed by any means.
Right.
The Target credit card, it literally was like, you know, when you go through the checkout and the cashier's like, oh, you can save 10% if you sign up for our credit card. And I was like, yes, I will.
I'm saving
I was
10%.
the ideal customer to sell to. Yes, sign me right on up. And of course, that's not all I put in the Target credit card. I feel like I maxed it out maybe my freshman year. And when I go back, I think about how they have all of these schools, all of these classes in high school, like home ec and to teach you life skills and all of that.
Hmm.
What do I talk about money? They don't talk
Nothing
about
about
budget.
money.
They don't talk about your credit. They don't talk about credit card.
No.
They don't talk about any of this stuff. And
We
so,
did one worksheet about like mortgage. How far am I from buying a house? I don't even need that.
yes. And so I feel like a lot of my money habits I learned literally from trial and error and also from like other people in college with me. That it's like my roommate got the credit
Yeah.
card with me. It's like, so you don't have anybody there to be like, oh no, not a good idea. And even when I think,
Right.
one of my best friends, Jamia, she worked at a bank and she was saying how people would come in and talk about CDs and all these other things. And I was like, and both of us were like, wait, like, what is that? What does that mean? I feel like there's so much more to money, like this whole world of money that I'm still trying to figure out even at 32. And
Right.
figuring out, like you were talking about with as far as with savings, but also learning how to maximize your savings and how to like make your savings earn more for you, like all of those different things.
Right.
But also understanding that people can only teach you like what they know. And I
Yeah.
feel
That's
like
true.
specifically as the Black community, we do have somewhat of a, what is the word that I'm looking for? Not a lack per se, but a disadvantage because we are having to figure a lot of it out as we go, or figure
Yeah.
it out like later on after we've maybe made some mistakes with debt and all of that. And so it really is like like a money mindset of having to relearn and unlearn different things so that you don't like continue to repeat those cycles or pass it down to people like Carly.
Right. And a lot of things recently that I've learned about money has come from TikTok. And it's not from the Black people, let's say that.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how do y'all know these things? It's like so many loopholes. And I personally, I don't have a credit card. I haven't had one yet. I haven't tried that yet. Yes, everybody says not to do it, but I don't know. It's like part of me is like, I want to try it out and see what everybody else is talking about, but I just want to know what I'm doing before I just jump into it.
Yes. And I will say one thing I have learned in regards to credit cards is that having credit cards in itself is not a bad thing. It is your spending habits with a credit card that can become a bad thing.
Right.
You can use a credit card and it can pay for flights, hotels, like all that stuff with points and everything, and it can work out to your
Hmm.
benefit. But you got to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a position where you're carrying debt unnecessarily. So
Right.
there's
That's true.
this is the one that I am interested in hearing your feedback on. So, what do you wish adults would have told you about men? About relationships?
Men,
And it doesn't necessarily just men in general.
men in general. Okay. See, I was trying to think of some positive things,
Okay,
but I'm just gonna be honest. I wish men weren't always portrayed as these tough guys. They are very sensitive. They're just as sensitive as us, if not more. And I feel like that's something you learn once you get in a relationship or once you build friendships with guys and they start to ask you questions about girls or something like that. And it's like sometimes I feel bad for asking, but I'm like, you care about that? Like that hurts your feelings? But I mean, of course it would hurt their feelings, they're human, but nobody tells us that we need to be just as cautious talking to men as we do to women sometimes. And sometimes I think I personally am a little nonchalant when it comes to men because I just automatically think like they're not gonna care. So yeah,
that is actually
a
really.
heads up.
What about relationships?
I'm still figuring. To be honest, relationships are not supposed to be hard. That is something that my mom has told me. Um, but I think like in the media and in movies, everything you see, everybody wants somebody who like a ride or die. You know, it doesn't matter what they do, what you do, y'all gonna be together. But I don't think it's supposed to be hard, and I am not budging on that ever. Um, you have arguments with everybody or disagreements with everybody, your sister, your cousin, your mom. you're gonna have it with your boyfriend or your husband, no matter how long y'all together. But overall, it's not supposed to be hard. And I wish that was somebody drilled that into my head in high school and college, really. So
No, that is so good. And I feel like I want to say this generation is more so like not about mess than previous generations. But I
yeah,
wish a conversation that was had from adults in a general sense is that is to stop normalizing somebody taking you through the mud, cheating,
yes,
doing all of these different things, and then choosing you later on.
right,
Because I feel like there is this idea of like this struggle love that's so beautiful and so great and so amazing. And I got the
yeah,
roses, and it's like, but at the expense of what? Like he don't you like
yeah. This is not even the same man you met that night, like at dinner. I mean,
I definitely feel like our generation is more willing to walk away from certain things, but there is still this aspect of love and hip hop of women who have put up with a lot and stayed through a lot. And yes, maybe you got a baby, a wedding, or whatever out of it,
right,
but all of that is not necessary. And it is not
yeah,
something that you have to put up with to get the happily ever after. I just refuse to believe that. Um,
yes,
I
I agree.
refuse to believe that. And I
I
feel like
agree.
too, what we don't talk about is that a lot of the generations that came before us, the reason why they stayed, it wasn't because they were so happily married. Like I've
Right,
seen memes where people have said something along the lines of like people's grandparents, great grandparents, all of that were married for like 60, 70 plus years, and this day and age people aren't trying to do that or people aren't committed. And it's like I don't think it's a commitment issue per se. I think it's more so of when we look back to those prior generations, they stayed because in some situations the husband was the breadwinner. So if the wife were,
right,
it's like how am I going to live? And in some situations, it was a matter of divorce is not an option, even though you are taking me through the mud. And I feel like our generation,
yes.
we just not for the mess. We not for the, you. You're not about to like.
Divorce, where are the papers? No, I mean,
I'm not someone who's gonna be like, oh, I'm not an advocate for divorce by any means, but I'm also not
right,
for being treated like crap and
yeah,
staying in unfaithful situations. But that's your business.
yeah. I definitely agree. I think this generation too is more open to dating. Let's just say dating. We have a lot of different terms for it, but getting to know people is okay. Different people. You don't have to once you commit, then of course I'm not saying go be a cheater out here and talk to everybody, but
Yes.
before then, right. It's not always okay, I met this person and we get along, so I'm never talking to anybody ever again. And it doesn't have to be that. So but also another thing that I wish adults told me about men is that they don't think like us
No, no, no.
at all. Like you can't force your we can't force the way we think on them. They're not gonna get it. And but we also have to try to understand where they're coming from when it's a reasonable, topic. Yeah, when it's reasonable. Cause
Yeah. Mm. All right. So, what do you wish adults would have told you about happiness?
I wish adults would have told me that happiness can be anything.
Mm.
And I keep it general because I feel like people like I know I do. I look at other things like I need other things to make me happy. Like I like sunflowers. Those make me happy. I keep those in my room. Or I love chicken nuggets. Those make me happy. If I'm having a bad day, I'm probably gonna eat some chicken nuggets. But happiness doesn't have to be something. Like it can just be. You can you can control your happiness. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You don't always need something else to make you happy. You can just be happy.
I love that. I think the thing that I wish I would have been told is that, similar to what you said, that happiness is not a result of something happening. And I
Right.
think a lot of times society paints this picture that you'll be happy once you get your dream job. You'll be happy
Right.
once you get married. You'll be happy once you have kids. And so it's like we're always waiting for the next thing. And
Right.
the thing that changed for me was realizing that yes, those things can bring you happiness, but they're ultimately not the source of happiness because
Right.
you'll ultimately get tired of that as well. And then you'll be on
Right.
chasing the next thing to make you happy. Like happiness for sure is an inside job, but with social media, with society, with all of these things, with comparison, even, it can make you feel like you need this to be happy. And once you get
Yeah.
that will solve all of your problems. And then you get it, you realize, like, okay, I was happy for like 3 months, but now I feel I'm back in the same place I was before I got it. Now,
Yeah.
and just learning that it really is. It's like you're saying, it's not a thing. It's something that you have to choose to be.
Yeah, because I learned that pretty fast once I got to college because I was looking to things to make me happy or like a trip, something coming up, then I was gonna be everything, all the tests that I was worried about, all that, I wasn't gonna care about that anymore because the trip was gonna come and I was gonna be happy. Or um whatever hobby I decided to do was going to keep me happy. But I get tired of things very fast. And in the moment, it's like the best thing ever in the world. And it lasts probably about 2 weeks. And then I need something else. So I had to learn how to be happy, just being happy. And I think people think that I'm always a really happy person. But the past, I'll say like 2 years, it's been the complete opposite. And just with like the end of college and then the pandemic made it 10 times worse. So I really had to think about like, okay, what is happiness for real? Because it's not any of this stuff because it was just all taken away from us. We couldn't do anything. We were in the house. So yeah, I just had to learn how to be content with myself and my life
And
at
this
the moment.
segue into the next one. What do you wish adults would have told you about mental health?
So I wish adults would have told me that it's also how should I say it? That mental health is a topic about everybody. And this might sound weird, but when I was younger, when I heard mental health, I immediately jumped to the extreme. Like somebody with a disability or somebody who has some type of like drug issues or something like that, some type of abuse. That's the type of mental health that I was thinking, like somebody who needed help immediately. But now I think that mental health has kind of been retaught
Mm-hmm.
to be like everybody. We all have brains and we all have thought, and I am a psychology major, so that's all we talk about. So definitely taking those different classes in school, and I actually took a counseling class, just opened my mind to like, okay, it's a lot more than just those two topics. And if you're not in the right headspace, then nothing's gonna get done. So you have to make sure you're okay mentally before you can do anything, really.
With this generation, we have normalized mental health significantly more than I feel like prior generations. And to the
Yeah.
point that you do see, I don't think that there's necessarily like an increase of people with depression or anxiety. I think it's an increase in people talking about it. And so it's becoming
Yeah.
more normalized because you're seeing people who are like, hey, I have depression or I have anxiety, or even to see people talk about having bipolar disorder, like all of these different things. Whereas, as you said before, there was a stigma associated with it that is like, oh, well, we associate mental health, and not to be, what is the word I'm looking for? Not to be like rude or anything, but
Right.
a lot of times we associate mental health with crazy. And
Yeah.
I think that we have done over the last couple of years a really good job of being able to remove that stigma, although there is still some there. But I do think we're more accepting to have those conversations and to ask questions, and people are more willing to get help and know that getting help doesn't mean that you're in a straitjacket. It doesn't mean that you're going to be in an inpatient hospital.
Exactly.
For some people, it is. That's
Right.
what they need, and that is 100% okay as well. But it can be having therapy sessions once a month, once a week, every 2 weeks, whatever it might be. And I think we're more accepting of that now. And going back to what I was saying earlier in regards to people can only teach what they know, I
Mm-hmm.
think for a lot of, I keep coming back to this, but within the Black community, we were somewhat taught to keep things in house.
Yeah.
Is going on, it stays within the family, it stays within the house, especially with the Christian Black community. It's, you take it to God and you pray about it, you don't go and seek help. And so
Right.
I think that we have, this generation is a lot more open and willing to acknowledge, like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, this is what I'm struggling with. And we're also more willing to seek help if necessary and not feel ashamed about that.
Right. And therapy is definitely something that I've gotten into within the last year.
I'm team therapy 100%.
A
Everybody,
100%. And I think like the timing is always right because I had tried therapy once before when I was in school, and the lady was great. She was great, but I don't know, like it was kind of weird for me being in the room. I don't know why. They're sitting over there and you're sitting on a little cute chair. It was like, I don't know, it was weird. But now with the pandemic, everything's virtual. So I can FaceTime my therapist. That is the best thing ever. And I'm literally just sitting on my bed in front of the window, FaceTiming, talking about life. It's the best thing ever. And I'm so glad that people are talking about it more because in high school, me included, everybody was like, I'm not going to therapy. Like, what? I mean, I could just talk to my mom or something like that. But talking to somebody who knows how to get you to say something without even really saying anything or asking is what really helps. So therapy is amazing.
and I think it helps to never underestimate the power and value of a trained professional. I think it's great to have like your family, your friends, a great support system like that. That is needed in addition to therapy. I'm not minimizing that non whatsoever.
Right.
People who are trained to ask the right questions and who are able to like pull things out of you that need to be pulled out to get you to the point where you're able to be like, oh, aha, it has clicked.
Right. Yes, I took a counseling class in school, and we were put into group, and it was like 6 or 7 of us, and we got to take turns being the therapist and the patient. And that was the coolest thing because on the first day, all of us, this was our senior year, so we knew each other in passing, but all of us weren't friends. So you could either come up with scenarios or you could really tell people about your life if you wanted to. So I'll say like the first class, we were making up stuff, talking about regular stuff. But by the last class, after we learned the techniques and stuff, we were in there crying to each other like, this week was terrible. But that just goes to show like learning how they do that really made me realize like, okay, they've got it down to a science. Like they know there is a way to work through stuff, and it might not be the way that you thought.
Yeah, that's good. And I would say this, then we'll go to the next topic. Your friends and your family can have good intentions, 100%. I'm not going to minimize that by any
Right.
means. But sometimes we can go to people for advice and they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
You just in this cycle, like you're on this little hamster wheel, and this person giving you advice, and ain't neither one of y'all getting breakthrough.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. And sometimes you know it's you because I know my friends come to me and I'll give them advice, but I'm not even doing that.
All right, what do you wish adults would have told you about handling conflict?
I wish adults would have told me to speak up.
Mm,
That's it. Just speak up. I have a hard time handling conflict, and I'm talking about the small things like I don't know, something goes wrong in the house or I don't know, just the little things, nothing big. But sometimes I'll not say anything because I have to be around the people. Like these are my friends or these are my family members, and I don't want to say anything because I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. Even if they made me uncomfortable, I don't want to do it back. So yeah, I will say that I know we're not talking about parents, but me and my mom are very close and we have a lot of great conversations. So my mom always has told me that say you can say what you mean, but make sure you're respectful. But however they take it, as long as you're respectful, however the person takes it, I mean, that's how they take it. And if it hurts their feelings, then hopefully they'll move past that. But even though she's told me that, I don't know, it's still hard for me sometimes to speak my mind or I'm the worst person when it comes to conflict, confrontation, all that.
say I teeter totter on both sides. So I'm typically the type of person, I don't have strong opinions about things. I can typically go with the
Mhm.
flow for the most part. So like 97% of the time, whatever, I'm not phased. That 3% though. So I'm either not gonna say anything or I'm gonna let you have it. Like there's literally like no in between.
Yeah.
It's that 3% though. But I would say I've said very firmly before, I think balance is a scam, and I still do. I stand by my statement. I said what
That
I
is
said.
true.
But I do think that there has to be a balance that I have not fully figured out of knowing when to let things go and knowing when to speak up.
Yeah.
So I think about one of my friendships who she literally has to say something about everything. So if something happens, she's going to let you know how she feels about it.
Right.
Regardless of how big, how small, like she has to say something about everything. And that is in response to her mom not speaking up. For me, you know our family dynamic. We have very, women in our family. They gonna speak
Yes.
up. You know your my mother. And so I realized that
Okay.
for a long time, me choosing not to speak up was a result of, and not just my mom, but seeing a lot of people around me who are more vocal, who do share when something is an issue, who do speak up. And so no one silenced me, I silenced myself as a result
Right.
of that because I don't like that conflict. I don't like that tension. I don't like that feeling of
Yeah.
comfortable. If I say something, you don't know how somebody's going to take it. And so you have like all of these different things that are going on the inside of you that you just feel uncomfortable. And
Right.
I realized that that isn't the healthy option either, because then you now carry the weight of not correcting how you were wronged, or not letting the person know, hey, I don't like when you talk to me like this, or I don't like when you say that, because you don't want to start conflict, but in return you start a conflict within yourself.
Right. Exactly.
And so that's something I would definitely say, is learning how to confront things without the mentality of this is going to be a confrontation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the reason why it can be difficult to confront things is because we've already determined in our minds that the response is going to be negative. Or not even just the response,
Yep.
the interaction is going to be negative. So it's going to be an argument. The person's going to get upset. They're going to be mad. And I'm not trying to do this back and forth with anyone. So we
Yeah.
already determined, we decide for ourselves how the whole conversation is going to go. We play in both parts. We play in the person that we need to talk to.
I already know
How it's going to end, and so we don't say anything. But I have seen very few times, but people have disagreements in a very normal tone and going about their business, and it's like, so that's an option too. Will I be?
How do y'all do that?
Y'all teach a class, like,
because I'm either very calm or I'm crying. There's no in between. I always, oh my gosh, that is one thing that gets on my own nerves that I do. I cannot say 3 lines without my eyes watering up. And now I'm like, well, I don't even want to do this anymore. So yeah, but I'm working on that. That's a work in progress, handling conflict.
I will share this tidbit with you that I'm sharing with myself. I'm trying to be more intentional about giving myself permission to feel, to cry, all of that. Because I'm the type of person, I do not like to cry. And I don't like people to see me cry. And I never want people to feel like you are the cause of me crying. And
Right.
I always think back to an episode of America's Next Top Model when I think they were doing like a cover girl shoot or something, and one of the girls, like, I guess she was not killing it, and so she was on the verge of tears the whole time, and Tyra was like, all right, let me tell you what you need to do. If you feel like you're gonna cry, you just need to cry, because otherwise you're just gonna look like otherwise you're just gonna look like you want to cry. Cry. And I was like,
that's true.
Because you're just gonna have tears in your eyes, like,
yes, and your face be all scrunched up and quivering.
Once you cry, like, that emotion, everything that's inside, it's out, and so now you're able to regroup and go forward. And I was like,
that is true.
A whole lot of sense. So I'm out to
cry. I had a friend that would tell me, allow yourself to feel. They said that all the time, and that was like the best advice that I ever got. And even if I can't do it in the conflict, during the conflict, I am definitely a person who I'm getting it out. I don't care if my friends see me crying. I don't care if, like, I'm not so much bothered when somebody else knows I'm mad. Like, I feel like some people don't want to, like, with men, going back to men, when you get into something, it's like, don't let them see you down. Don't let them know that they bothered you. But me, I want you to know that I'm bothered. I want you to know that you hurt my feelings. This is what you did. This is the reaction that I'm giving. And that's fine, because I know, like, if I see how I treated somebody else, or I see, like, the reaction or them being hurt, then that helps me. And I'm like, okay, even if they don't say anything, I know they're upset. So let me not do that anymore. So I enjoy feeling all my emotions sometimes.
Listen, feel it. All right, last question. It's kind of a two-parter, but I'll ask them together. You can answer however you like. But what do you wish that adults would have told you about being a woman and about being a Black woman? Because those are two distinct things.
They are. Okay, so I wish adults would have told me that being a Black woman is powerful. Our accomplishments, the things that we do, like, you're still hearing the first Black woman to do, or the first Black woman to be, and that is just so crazy to me. And I feel like growing up, it's not emphasized. Although when I was young, I mean, it wasn't. When you were young, it wasn't. When our parents were young, it wasn't. It's really just now becoming a big thing. But definitely something to tell Carly is that being a Black woman and pushing through and doing the things that people say you can't do is going to make it 10 times better because you're a Black woman. Like, I'm rooting for everybody Black, women specifically. But seriously, and then being a woman, today, women are doing a lot more than they could Of course, everybody knows, but being a woman doesn't being a woman is kind of complicated. The world makes it a little complicated, to say the least. I would just say, even though we're seen as emotional, it's like they tell you that we're emotional and but we're nurturing because we can be mothers and we're mothers and all this. But then when you are emotional, they're restating that you're emotional. It's just complicated. It is so complicated. But I would just say I wish they told me that it's okay to be a woman. Let's just say that. Because sometimes people make it seem like it's not okay. Even what other women make it seem like you're wrong for doing things or it's weird the way you do things. And of course, we know men, they they don't want us to do much of anything. But yeah, so a complicated answer, but a complicated feeling, really.
No, that is very valid. And I would say for me, for both being a woman and being a Black woman, I wish that there were more conversations about, as you were saying earlier, about who we are, the great things, the positive things. Because as I was thinking about this, not even from my mother or like family members, just growing up, I can think about a lot of things that were said as a woman, don't do this. As a Black woman, don't be
Yeah.
don't be too aggressive. So I feel like there was so much emphasis on what not to do, what not to be, that who we are, what we encompass, all of that was either ignored or minimized to an extent because we had to make sure that we weren't this over here and
Right.
able to be in a space now where I do feel like a lot of things are more celebrated for women specifically and also Black women specifically. We're able to stand and embrace a lot of things that we were told were too much, too ghetto,
Right.
this, to that. It's like, no, we're able to really stand in that now, which I really love. And I love the fact that thinking about Carly and the next generation that's coming up will be able to have a very different view of their womanhood and
Yeah.
representation as Black women to be able to see like, oh hey, our Madam Vice President looks like me or
Exactly.
looks like someone I know.
Right.
Able to have that, I feel like now there is definitely more push of accepting us as we are, knowing that we're evolving, growing, all of that, giving space for that, versus saying, don't be too much, don't be this, don't
Right.
be
And something small that I just thought of, very small, but it affected me like up until now. Skirts. And this is weird, but as a little girl, like if my mom would put me in a skirt, to go to school or whatever, and it's time to go on the playground, and the teachers are like, "Oh no, don't do that. You have a skirt on," or "No, don't bend down like that. You have a skirt on," or I used to like to sit in the chair with my legs up in the chair. Couldn't do that with a skirt on, and I didn't like skirts. I never wanted to wear a skirt ever again because I'm like, well, what can boys not wear, or when they wear this, what can they not do, or who's looking up my skirt? Like, what? Why do I have to be worried about that? And I had never liked wearing skirts and I avoided it until literally I got to college and I had to wear a skirt for business professional. I couldn't wear dress pants and I was so mad about that. But yeah, that's something small that I just thought about, that like they keep telling you as a girl you can't do this, as a woman you can't do this. So I'm just gonna take that part out and we're just never gonna have to worry about that. But I shouldn't have to do that.
right. Yeah, that's yeah. I feel like we could do a whole nother episode just on
Yes, exactly.
as far as being a woman, but this was so good. Thank you so much, Keonya, for being my guest and having this conversation. I think that it's a much needed conversation to have, and hopefully, other parents, aunties, cousins, whatever who may be listening will start opening up dialogues and having conversations with this generation. But I feel like this generation is very, listen, this generation is open to listening to things, but they're also in there. They have opinions. Okay, so
Yeah, and you're gonna hear them. So
just be open for it to be a dialogue.
Exactly.
For sure. So, y'all prepare yourself.
Woo!
All right. So Keonya, tell people how they can follow and connect with you on social media.
So my Instagram and my Twitter is Yes It's Key. KEE. Yeah. Yep. I love Twitter. So if you want to talk about TV shows or movies, anything like that, Twitter. But thank you so much for having me. I had fun.
You were here. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe and share this week's episode with a friend. And until next time, be whole, be healed, and be authentic. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into A Change of Heart podcast. I hope you were encouraged, and please take a moment to share with a girlfriend, and don't forget to download the episode. Lastly, I would love to connect with you. You can follow me on Instagram at Angel C. Walston and at A Change of Heart podcast. Have an amazing week, and don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic.